Hello and welcome to week one of the 42 Business Principles. Last week we did an introduction of the 42 Business Principle training course, which today starts with principle number one. And I'd like to welcome you to a journey. So a journey of 42 business principles. Many of them might sound obvious to you, but I think in today's environment, one has to really think through how these principles apply in today's world. Now, so much has happened, and it's become cliche in terms of all the stuff that's been going on around us, and so on. But what has fundamentally changed is the way that we engage and communicate with our clients and customers. So, in terms of business growth principles, the place where you get growth is by having a better set of tools, but still based on core business principles. So, just to recap on my introduction episode, what I did mention was many of the core principles that we have are based on proven things that are around us. So I mentioned something like gravity, for instance. I mean, if you jump off the top of a building, you know, 10 times out of 10, you're going to fall and you're going to fall down onto the ground. It's not sometimes you'll fall up and sometimes you'll fall sideways. You will always fall towards the gravity and the gravitational force of the bigger object, which is Earth. And I think as humans, we also have a certain amount of gravity because we are made up of matter. But essentially, it's a principle. And if I look at the 42 business principles, they are really as obvious as that. But how do you apply it? How do you make gravity work for you? So, what I did mention last week was if you look at leverage, if you look at the lever, the old lever from the old days where you had the ability to lift heavy objects using a pole or something like that. You use the leverage principle, so gravity pulling on this end and lifting an object on the other end. So there's practical uses. Obviously, things have changed in time, and gravity has different applications. If you're shooting a rocket into space, you would need to overcome gravity. If we look at things like friction has got both a positive and a negative. And this is why I'm talking about principles, because business growth principles are, again, as obvious as this, but it's how you apply it, which makes the difference. If you look at friction is good. If I have a motor car, a truck, or a vehicle of some sort, I need to slow that vehicle down, or else I'm going to be crashing into everything. So I have brakes. I have brake pads, and the brake pads put compression on the brake disc. And when you look again, you slow down and you come to a stop, and you can control the speed of the vehicle by using friction as your friend. Friction can also be bad in terms of the use of objects, or in mechanical engineering, which I study. We look a lot at how do you reduce friction between objects. If you look at a wheel, for instance, again going back to a vehicle, a wheel is spinning on ball bearings, on bearings and so on, but within the bearing you got lubrication. You're trying to minimize and reduce any kind of friction, because the more friction you have, the more fuel you'll use, the more energy you need to move forward. So again, it's a business, it's a principle. So you either work with the principle, or you work against it, or you make it work for you. So coming back to the 42 business principles. So I'm quickly going to share it on the screen, just the list, but we're going to start with principle number one. Let me just quickly do the share, and then you can get an idea. Let me just see if I can open up the screen. And it's just, I'll be adding a little bit more for you as we go, in terms of information around each one of these. And this is a podcast. This is a course, if you like, and this is lesson-based work. So we will be doing this over a 42-week period. We're going to take each one of these business principles. We're going to be applying them in the modern day environment. And if you want any of the additional slides in that, as we grow and develop the actual principles themselves, we are going to make those available to anybody that asks. I will be sharing my contact details for you, and then you are welcome to contact me. And if you'd like the full series, you can always just contact me, and we can hook you up. Okay, so that's the those are the 42 business principles. If you're taking a screenshot, that's fine. But we're going to talk today, I would say the first most critical one, which is marketing your business, is the ultimate leverage. Okay, so I spoke a little bit about that leverage principle, is how do you overcome gravity in an easy way? How do you push as little force down on this end and lift as much weight on the other end as possible? And if you think of the leverage principle, marketing your business is the ultimate leverage. And in today's world, everything has become more and more digital. But there are aspects that are digital that the people forget. And in my sales pitch presentation and course that we'll be touching on later, is I talk there about some of the pillars of marketing, and one of the places we need to start with these days. Most people are all about, I need more leads. Give me more appointments, give me more clients to talk to. And when we go out and we do, let's say, big campaigns, and we're trying to leverage, let's call it electronic or digital marketing, or even if you do manual or outbound marketing with a telephone, you're sending out posts, you're still advertising in more legacy style media, or any type of advertising, marketing, in lead generation work, is actually should come second. And most people get the sequence wrong. So when we look at 42 business principles, and we're going to start looking at, and in the future, in future sessions, I will be sharing these pillars. But pillar number one is about reputation. Now, something critical in our environment these days with regard to digital marketing is that if you think about the client or the customer that you try, or even investor that you're trying to engage with, you have you've done all the special work, you've chosen a specific persona or avatar, and you know exactly who your market is and what they look like, where they are. You've got their telephone numbers, you've got absolutely everything, and you now start an outreach program, but you're getting absolutely nowhere. Marketing starts, in my belief, with reputation. Now, in the old days, if you like, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, how do you build a good reputation? It's by delivering good services, delivering a good product, being reachable, being personable, doing one-to-one relationship. The volume of interactions we could have, let's say 20, 30, 40 years ago, even when I started my career 30 years ago, if I just think about, I used an A to Z map book to make appointments. I would have to drive all the way to my office where there was a telephone. There weren't telephones everywhere. I'd have to then pick up the phone, have phone blocks and set appointments, and then get into my car, take my map book, and try and find these addresses the next day or the next week when I set the appointments. And then if I get to the appointment, there's a no show, it will be a waste of time and fuel and so on. But it was quite clunky, and it was very much a manual sort of process. Today, when we're looking at lead generation, when I look at the way a customer experiences sort of the buying process, and we've got to think more about the buying process of a customer as opposed to, or a client or an investor. We've got to think more about how do we leverage marketing to be the ultimate leverage. And marketing has to be based on principles. And the first principle is reputation. And how do I build reputation in this landscape? So if I want to build the ultimate leverage, my first portion I would need to look at is reputation. Reputation is built now these days on likes. It's built on comments, on postings and things like that. It's also built on reviews. Even these days, when I'm looking to watch a series or a movie, or I'm looking to engage with somebody, one of the first things I go to is the star rating, is the rating they have on whatever platform it is that they're trying to promote. So if I open, I just want to open a screen quickly, and see if I could share something of interest to you. Um, if I look at the visibility of reputation, I'm going to share the screen. Just let me open that. It's just a quick slide, and what's interesting, if you have a look at, if I would say, which business would you choose? Um, this business has got a 5-star rating, but it's only 4 people have rated this business. Or you could have a 4.2 rating, but there are 392 people have rated this business. Which business would you choose? Now, this is the experience that our clients and customers are going through. So this, as also, if you have a look here, we've got response from owner. We're sorry it happened. We want to make it right. Can you see there's an engagement there? As opposed to this one has no response. Although there's 392 reviews. Again, which business would you choose? Reviews today make or break your business. So when you're looking at the leverage, using marketing as the ultimate leverage, again, you got to say, okay, what are the core pillars that make up marketing? Number one is when someone comes to look for you for something that you do, or you've done an outbound call. Let's say I've picked up the phone and I'm doing B2B engagements, and I say, hey, Mr. Potential prospect, customer, suspect, whatever you want to call him or her, and you say, this is this great service that I have. I'm the best. I'm blah, blah, blah. I'm so different. I'm special. I'm unique. And I can really help you doing this, that, the next thing. What automatically happens by that potential customer or the prospect is they will go, and if you've sent them a mail and you've put a link to your website, they would go and do a quick check on your reputation. Now, you could make 100 appointments, but you could have, again, you could have a big problem around people engaging with you, because by the time you get to seeing that person and they've gone to the trouble of actually looking you up briefly, I mean, I'm just talking about a snapshot. I mean, this is just quickly doing a search, looking up your company. And if you don't have a decent review, your marketing is already not going to work. So number one is reputation. Number two is, if I look at using marketing, the second core pillar is, how well am I treating my existing customers? Because my existing customers, or investors or clients, and I use those words interchangeably, but how well am I looking after my existing client base? Do I have at least a sequence or an automated way in which I'm re-engaging them in a sequenced fashion? And again, it comes down to using marketing as the ultimate leverage, as a core principle. And marketing, like I said, has got these different pillars, and these are the 4 pillars I'm going to share with you now. Number one, reputation. Number two, how well am I treating my existing clients? Because my existing clients will be the ones who do what? Leave reviews. We want them to leave reviews. How do we let them leave reviews? Is by giving them really world-class, brilliant service. And it's back to the old days concepts of, I do need to do the best I can with each and every customer and give them the best journey and experience possible, and then get them, because they've had this brilliant experience with me, to go back and to build up and help me grow my reputation. If I'm using other reputation methods, there are testimonials, there's case studies, there's quick video snapshots of a happy customer. There could even be videos of an installation site or or even a webinar or something like that you've done, or an engagement or an interview you've done with a happy client. All of those things build reputation and understanding. So marketing is made up of reputation management, existing customer base management. And then the third level up is how well you now able, and this is now third level. And I mean, we're only covering, I mean, these four, and only now can you start looking at outreach. If you're a new business, I mean, there are other ways to deal with this, and we can cover that at a future session. But today, I'm just want to go and say, if you've got an existing business, and again, it's more about services businesses than anything else, because we do focus on mergers and acquisition entities, private equity firms, and investment based businesses, family offices, high net worth individuals, and especially the post merger integration or post acquisition integration practitioners, boutique firms, and so on. But this applies to any professional service business, any business selling services. So to recap, reputation, huge. Next level up, delivering magnificent world-class service. Next level up. Next level up, the third one is when I do my outreach, what am I doing? I'm going to use and leverage again my first two, because when I reach out to new clients and customers, I use testimonials, I use case studies, and I rely heavily on my reputation management, and making sure that when I send out any kind of lead generation mechanism, that I'm using what we call social proof. Now, social proof, unfortunately, these days we spend more time online. We don't spend that much time out and meeting and greeting people, having those events that like we used to do, which were critical to even our mental health to a great extent. But that's just the way the world goes. But when you go and target, you need a good reputation. You need referenceability from happy customers and clients. And then you can go out and do proper outreach campaigns. And then we use that as leverage. And marketing then becomes a lot easier. And then the fourth level, which most people leave out and forget, is when we go out and do outreach and marketing. These days, the buying cycles and the length of time that it takes for clients to buy have increased significantly. So decision-making times are longer. There's probably too much information. There's an information overload, if you like, and it really is just using your common sense in terms of how do people really work in behavioral psychology, if you like. How do people really work in their minds? And there's a really great book, and I'd really encourage you to read it. It's a book by a guy by the name of Daniel Kahneman. It's calling Thinking Fast and Slow. It's a really tough read, but I can tell you it's well worth grinding through it, because it's got the most magnificent examples and studies around human psychology and behavioral psychology and so on. But the core concept here is when you do your first outreach, you might only be planting a seed. You might only be discussing something that they may be thinking about and so on. But what generally tends to happen is, because information is so freely available, people are always looking at second or third or fourth quotes. It's like you would walk into, I'm again going to use my motor vehicle analogy. I walk into a store that sells motorcar tires. I need brand new tires for my vehicle. I'll go in there and I'll say, can you provide me with a quotation, please? And they'll provide me the quotation. They might even print it nicely, and the salesperson might be absolutely brilliant. What I do is as I walk out the door with a quotation, I'm immediately on Google or any of the social channels, and I'm now finding alternatives to compare that quotation to. So when we're looking at marketing as the ultimate leverage in the modern world, reputation management, that's where everything starts. What is your reputation online? Because that's the only reference that people really have to go and see whether you are legitimate, you are good at what you do, and what other people say. What is the visibility reputation wise? Level up is what kind of testimonials, reviews, have you responded to any complaints, that kind of thing. As I mentioned, if you go one level up, when you're doing your outreach, you're doing it in such a fashion that you are starting engaging conversations, and it's not this hard 80s style sort of put my foot in the door and force my way in. It is educational, it is consultative, it is problem solving. And the fourth element, when from cold outreach, the fourth element that you do need to take maximum care of is what we call retargeting. um, and that is making sure that you are visible in multiple platforms. So people get this completely confused and all the way wrong. They think they're going to first go out and generate leads, then maybe think about reputation if they do. Maybe the second part is just making sure that customers are reasonably happy. And then 2 out of 4, they score reasonably well, let's say, and they run a nice little practice or business, and that's where they hit the ceiling. If you ever want to scale or grow, or even just make sure that you can have run a sustainable business, you need to say reputation is absolutely critical. That's the number one thing I need to be concentrating on. Number two, I need to concentrate on is making sure I deliver world class to my investors, to my clients, my customers, my world-class delivery. In other words, you need to have a proper system, process, feedback, client management, or what you call the old customer service kind of thing. And then third level up is how do I approach my clients? Am I consultative or am I hardcore? And all of the pillars, they sort of stack up on each other. And then right at the top is when they do the invariable um, Google search or social media search for alternatives, that if you're not retargeting your audience, in other words, you're not visible again in the retarget. In other words, let's say they do a search and they go onto YouTube, and you don't have a few YouTube videos and maybe an ad or something like that, and you haven't retargeted your audience, and your ad doesn't pop up in front of them, but a competitor ad pops up, the natural tendency is to go and follow that route. And then that the potential customer or the prospect goes down that rabbit hole. And when they look again, they've been drawn into a sales funnel, and that person has now got the opportunity. You've started the process, but someone else has got the sale. What you want to do is the fourth element, and this is critical if you want to have marketing as your ultimate leverage, and that's making sure that you appear on every single possible social media platform. And every single social media platform, again, then you need to be able to use the retargeting concepts of being able to say, okay, if that is my target audience profile, if I can make sure that I capture the right information about my potential customer and retarget. So if ever my potential customer, the prospect that's come into my store, come onto my website, come into my office, asked me for a free report or a download, that I'm making sure that once they go and they double check and they look at the reviews are good, my testimonials are good, my outreach is highly professional, rapport building, engaging, consultative. But then the fourth level up, that I've got that sorted, and that's sorted in terms of wherever they search, whether it is TikTok, Facebook, all the different social media channels. You just, it's unbelievable. So you go to Twitters, and I mean, the number of social media channels are crazy. Even where one of the mistakes a lot of our clients make initially, and then we sort that out, is that in the retargeting, often you have these entities or these companies that will do data scraping. In other words, they would go online and look in a particular niche and grab all that company data off those websites, and then post that data onto their own platform. When they post it onto their own platform, for, let's call it, services in, and then, category, could be whatever professional service you're offering, whether it's integrations or M&A work, or property investments or whatever it is. If uh, if you go through that whole process of retargeting, and they go and they search, and you're not visible in all these multiple platforms, all the other stuff falls flat, because someone else's marketing is going to be better than yours. No matter how good you are at your reputation, no matter how good you are at world-class service and your skills and so on, no matter how good your approach was and your rapport building and so on, if you're not now being visible right at the top end, retargeting, collecting information, those sites that go out and scrape data and build these additional databases, if you just search your company name and go back 10, 15, 20, 30 pages in Google, for instance, or in YouTube or wherever, and you'll be amazed at the weirdest places where your company or you as an individual, where you come up. And when you're looking at retargeting, and you haven't taken care of all those weird places, that you haven't taken ownership of those profiles, and either if they're not correctly done, you need to get hold of those companies and get them down, or you need to take ownership of those profiles and get them rewritten properly, so that your entire message across the entire internet universe, or the entire social media universe, all correlates to your message and who you are as a company. So I'm just going to go back, and we're just going to run through again. This is marketing principle, business growth principle number 1. Out of the 42 business principles, we're going to be doing one principle a week. And this is a training course essentially for every week, for you to take the ideas from each one of these weeks and to go and implement it in this coming week. And then next week to do exactly the same thing, to take the next principle and implement, and so on. After 42 weeks, which is, if you take a year's 52 weeks, if you can do this in a year's time, you would have a significantly different business. You would have a significantly different life and enjoyment within what you do. And I can't say it's going to be easy or simple. There's a lot of work in each one of these principles. But as I mentioned, you've got reputation, world-class delivery of customer services, really great outreach, and then the retargeting at the top. You've got those 4 pillars. That is the ultimate leverage you can have in your marketplace. So marketing essentially is the ultimate leverage for your business. If you have any questions, have any comments, please put them in the thing below. If you in the comments below, if you like what I've been talking about today, please subscribe to the channel, and please look out for the next episode in our 42 business growth principles training course. Thank you very much for attending, and we'll see you on business growth principle number 2.